Hey, everybody. Welcome to the SME podcast. What's going on, Adam?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, this week we are in sunny Sacramento at the wonderful Union offices, joined by co-founder Greg Patterson. How you doing, Greg?
I am good.
Good to have you, man. You have
Good to be here.
Quite the resume. I'll tell you what. It's been interesting learning about this stuff. So we've got, let's run down in here. Co-founder of Q, head of music at Eventbrite. These are all past, not current. And currently chief strategy officer over at Veeps, huh?
That's what they say. That's what LinkedIn says. So we'll go with it. If it's on LinkedIn, it's got to be true.
Well, that's impressive, man. That's great. So, I mean, with all that background, I mean, what the hell's going on in the world right now? I mean, come on.
I mean, we're all in the streaming business now, right? Isn't that how this works?
Yeah. So why not have somebody that's in streaming on, right?
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. Yeah. It's been an interesting. I mean, it feels. I was talking to somebody the other day, a friend of mine yesterday who lives in Nashville, and we were talking about like the tornado that happened. I was like, oh man, that was like a year ago. And I was like, oh shit, no, it was like 5 months ago or 6 months ago.
It was like right before all this stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, and you start to realize like how time is just completely warped right now. So yeah, so now we're doing. I'm involved with Veeps. I joined them in April after 4 years at Eventbrite.
Tell us a little bit about Veeps. What's going on over there? Like who? Like the Madden's own that, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Benji and Joel and there are two other co-founders, Sherry and Kyle, founded the company about 3.5 years ago. So it's interesting because it's very much in a similar space to what Wonderful Union was doing in terms of artist services, direct to consumer experience type stuff. Okay. The primary difference is that, at Wonderful Union, we were doing like sending people on the tour and, advancing all the dates and fulfilling the merchandise, like very, very, very services. Whereas Veeps was kind of this other end of the market where they were providing a tool set. Here's an app to check people in. Here's like all the tools you need as a touring band to do that same thing, unlock that same bucket of revenue for yourself without all the white glove stuff. Yeah.
That's cool.
And then COVID hit, right? So, in March.
That's nothing we've spoke about at all is COVID.
I'm sure this is a new topic, fresh topic.
What is that?
And I'm sure, the trajectory is the same, right? For most everybody, the rug gets pulled out. You start seeing the tours canceled. And they really quickly, there's only a few companies that responded, I think, as quickly as they did. Wonderful Union being one of them as well. Mm-hmm. Where, by the end of March, they had completely just added this layer of doing the streaming, which was something they'd played with, but nobody really cared about. They'd kind of, they had it before and nobody was really super interested in it. And then it just sort of worked out that they swapped it in. They did their first stream with Lizzie in the end of March. And then since then, it's been, a few hundred streams, about 250,000 tickets.
That's crazy. That's great.
A few $1 million generated for artists. So
it's fantastic, considering this is a time where nobody's making money right now. So or limited cash for sure. So
I mean, it's an interesting trajectory because I started the pandemic at Eventbrite, still working there, and I spent about the last like 3-4 weeks working on strategy team, basically trying to look at what's going on in the world and give my assessments back to the executive team on so we can make some decisions. Mm-hmm. And somewhere in the middle of that, I was like, the writing on the wall is that a lot of people are going to lose their jobs. Mm-hmm. And so, and probably I'll be one of them as well. So it's an interesting thing after, 10 years of starting companies and running companies and employing yourself, and going through 2 acquisitions in the past 3 years that I was just unemployed. It was just like a weird, like being like a crazy, like you work your ass off, running multiple companies and all this sort of stuff for several years. And then there's nothing to do. Like you wake up one morning, there's literally nothing to do. And in any other situation, you just pick up the phone and start, looking for the next gig. Well, the entire fucking world's on fire around you. You're like, I don't know what's going to happen.
You don't know what to do in that case too. Sometimes you're just sitting there, you make your morning coffee and you're like, all right, well, what am I going to do today?
Yeah. It's pretty wild. And so I just put a,
So did you take a sabbatical, or did you actually just go out and start looking right away?
I didn't actually start looking at all, to be honest with you. I had I talked to Eddie a little bit, but they were,
Eddie Meehan?
Yeah, Eddie Meehan, my partner. I mean, we've been, doing stuff together for well over a decade. So, I kind of talked to him and was, getting what his vibe was. And it was just pretty clear by, April 1st. Mm-hmm. I think it was around April 8th or something that we let people go at Eventbrite. And it was just clear that this was everywhere. Mm-hmm. So it's like, if you've been in the music business for a decade or better, there's really no one to call. Like, right? Like everybody's doing the same assessment. They were on their gigs. Yeah. So I literally just posted something on LinkedIn and just said kind of, thanks Kevin and Julia and Matt Rosenberg, who's one of the people who's been Randy, the CFO at the time, who are all kind of really essential in bringing me on board with Eventbrite, which was a really positive and fun experience for the 4 years I was there. Just thanking them. It was a great ride, and I understood that they had to do what they had to do, and they're trying to make, keep their own business around. And it was just sort of a gracious thanks, on to the next, and good luck to everybody. And if anybody needs anything, I've got lots of time on my hand. Let's talk.
That's cool.
Yeah. And Joel called. I've never talked to Joel. I obviously know who.
Like completely out of the blue. Like
out of the blue. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it came through Joey Simmerin.
Okay.
So Joey had hit me up, who I knew from years ago, and he said, "Hey, Joel, Joel's got this thing with Veeps, who I'd come across during my research at Eventbrite, and they want to talk." So I just jumped on the phone with Joel and heard what they were doing, and he, the basic gist was, we've got this thing happening, and it's working, and we could really use somebody who's been through this stage of a company before to come in and help us. So I just kind of jumped in. It's been
that's great.
4 months now.
Cool.
Wow. I mean, that's amazing.
Congrats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel extremely fortunate. They're very similar to, every good company I've ever been a part of or started felt like starting a band, So it's like, it feels like that. It feels like we're in a band. We're all in a band together, me and Sherry and Kyle. And so it's kind of like pirate energy and all that kind of same stuff you get on tour with a band, where it's a little messy. You're kind of making shit up as you go. It's moving. It's always like about a foot or two faster than you can run. So you're trying to keep up with everything. And so, but when it's working, that's what it feels like, right? Like if it's not working, you got all kinds of time on your hands to think about.
Yeah, exactly.
Think about it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the long,
but
COVID experience.
But it sounds like it's been a good experience for yourself. That's great. Like that you jump out of, obviously a successful company like Eventbrite, and then you jump into Veeps, which it sounds like it's going to be booming here for the time being and potentially past this whole pandemic issue. So,
yeah, this is the interesting part about, when I joined Eventbrite, it was 500 people right about in 2016. And it was well over 1,200, somewhere around 1,200 or something by the time I, towards the end there. And then I think about 500 people got laid off simultaneously. One of the things I learned during that experience is I really like small companies. And I really like them in this particularly young space of where the company, when it's like 10 people to 30 people, somewhere in there. It's like a really fun experience. And so yeah, Veeps is right in that sweet spot. So, I've done this a couple of times, and it's like, this is great. Like I know exactly kind of how to be additive and not get in the way. So it's kind of helping them through the fog a little bit of like, I've seen this before, let me help you out. And sometimes it's just shutting up and just letting the thing do its thing.
Hey everybody, it's Trevor and Adam.
We want you to check out Dynamic Talent International, the boutique booking agency with a personal attention to their clients' needs.
From music talent, seminars, podcasts, and YouTube, DTI represents a wide range of incredible clients.
Visit dynamictalentint.com for a full roster list and contact information. Go check it out.
That's
so
great.
you play like a Big Papa role.
To some degree, I guess, yeah.
Greg is the Big Papa, that's for sure.
But those guys, Benji and Joel in particular, like not knowing them super well, at first I was kind of skeptical. I was like, oh, this is like, a couple celebrity guys who are, they put their name on something, but
but they're just massive. Like in Australia, they're just huge.
Well, they're like in it every day.
Yeah.
Like Benji and Joel are both in. Joel's running MDDN as well, or Benji's running
with the
MDDN
management
as well.
company.
Yeah. For all you guys out there that don't know who these two people are, Benji and Joel Madden from Good Charlotte.
Yeah.
So just wanted to bring that up. So
small band. Nobody knows who they are.
Yeah, they've done
guys.
a couple of records.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, they're in it every day, and they're really good at it. So, I think that was the piece that I was pleasantly surprised by. Because initially I was kind of like, I'll consult, and then really quickly it was just like, I was just in it, like full on in the business with them. And Joel's in there every day. He's on big meetings, small meetings, which I take that approach too. Like you meet with everybody, you talk to everybody.
Of course.
And, so it's been a cool experience.
That's cool. Well, other than work, what are you doing with yourself these days? Since it's pandemic time and
we're homeschooling.
Obviously, the homeschooling thing. Like, what's going on with your kids? Like, how's that going?
It's
interesting.
Come on, tell the truth. Don't hold back.
Oh, look! It fucking sucks. It sucks for the kids. It literally is just they're super social. They're taking it in stride, but we're going on. My family's taking this pretty seriously. Like this is probably one of 3 times I've been out of the house since March, like in a meaningful way.
And you're talking about meaning out of the house because of pandemic reasons around other people type of things. What you're saying?
Yeah. Oh, my wife doesn't. Yeah, my wife doesn't leave at all. My kids haven't seen another kid in 6 months. Like they've just been in the house. So it's cool. I mean, in one way, it's cool. Like they've kind of figured out technology, like really, really quickly. Mm-hmm. Like my oldest daughter, will do Zoom calls with other kids in her class, and she's been doing that since they left in March. But it's not an ideal way to work 100% of the time.
Do you see any way that we can get the kids back? Like obviously there's a couple counties here in Sacramento area that are going back. I think El Dorado went back and a couple others went back. Yeah. Do you think that if that did happen, would you send your kids back to school?
No, we were given the choice before the school year when things were kind of like curving back, where like that people thought like, oh, maybe we've seen the other side of this. And they brought us a choice of you could do hybrid or full distance. Mm-hmm. And we went full distance because we kind of understood it was going to be start-stop anyways. So, and if you committed to full distance, you had to be full distance for the year. And if you did the other thing, you might be ping-ponging in and out. And it felt too chaotic. For me, like, I mean, I know this shouldn't be controversial, but somehow it's become controversial, like public health and things. Mm-hmm. We are of the mindset that, no, we're not sending them back until, we feel like.
Until a vaccine, or do you think until you feel safe?
I mean, I don't know that those are mutually exclusive these days. Like that's the problem. It's like I think that the idea around, I mean, I don't know that the vaccine's a magic bullet either, to be honest. Like it seems like there's so much doubt sown in all this shit that it's not everybody's even going to trust the vaccine to take it. So.
At least not for the first 2 cycles of it. It
needs some time to develop. You can't just be like, "Oh, we made this. Here you go. Stick it in your arm. Oh yeah, now you're safe." No one knows.
Yeah. And it's like nobody wants to send my kids back more than me. Like I really want to send them back. This is terrible.
It's a key time in their like development.
It is. But what's worse for their development is getting sick, or me getting sick, or their grandparents getting sick. Right. So it's like, this is a temporary adjustment to their development. By the way, it's happening to every other kid. Yeah. So they're all sort of like in this suspension together. Mm-hmm. So it's not like there's a pack of kids who are going to go get into Harvard and she's not, because we kept her home and they went to school. But
well, I mean, they just took that away though. They took the ACTs and the SATs away. So going to college is completely different now. So again, you have young children. You don't have college age children.
No, I do not have college age children.
But meaning like, if they take away those standardized tests, which they just did, essentially it shows, how are you going to impress on people to get into these bigger colleges or these Ivy League schools through distance learning, and the fact that it's a pass-fail system for the most part now. So
I don't know, man. I didn't even go to. Here's the irony. My wife has like a PhD and a couple master's degrees, and I have a GED. So I'm not exactly the best person to endorse college as a path necessarily. But,
I hear you.
No, I mean, I think that, like, to your earlier point, though, your question, like, when it feels safe, the minute I feel like it's the right thing to do, I'll send them back. Like, that's the best thing for them. Like, nobody's arguing that piece. But I think the bigger piece is that somehow, you can look around at the rest of the world and what's happened, and like other places have, gone down. And, I have a couple coworkers who were in Spain during their first really big wave. We've just handled this terribly on every possible way. And so now you have it to where, like, rational, really intelligent people, I know, that I would consider to be maybe more liberal leaning or things like that. When you're forced to put like the idea of putting food on your table against your ideology, like it gets very complicated. Mm-hmm. And so, hairdressers, bar owners, club owners, booking agents, like everybody, you have every right to be fucking mad and frustrated with where we're at right now. And I don't think it's necessarily a liberal or a Democrat thing. It's just a mess. And so whether it's the kids or the bars or the restaurants, unfortunately, we got both consequences, right? Yep. And trying to avoid one, we got both. We have the worst possible health version of this, and we have the worst possible economic version of this.
And we're also in the middle of an election.
We're in the middle of an election, which has also been used to probably politicize this thing. Yeah. And unfortunately, until there's a vaccine, or there's some other stuff I saw on, like, I don't know if it's Axios or something this week, where it was like an antibody thing, where, like, it's like they're trying to give people a way to build antibodies in their system for who won't take the vaccine. Until you kind of have those sort of things in place, I think we're all kind of, whether it's school, concerts, whatever, we're all kind of at the mercy of getting our shit together. And unfortunately, there's no sign of us getting our shit together.
That's the problem. There's no end in sight with all this. It's I've talked to so many people. When all this stuff went to shit, I basically was like, you know what, I'm going to call every single person that I know now and just see how they are doing. Yeah. Just check up on them. I think that was really the key thing for me, was making sure that everybody was okay.
Yeah.
And I was calling people that I haven't talked to in I think one of my guys 10 years. But I knew that he had health issues. I was like, are you okay? He was like, I haven't left the house in 6 months. And I'm like, how are you getting groceries? It's like, oh, Postmates. Mm-hmm. Spending so much money, I think thousands and thousands of dollars on just delivery fees trying to get food. Mm-hmm. And it's impacted his life so much that he's becoming I don't think he's going to get out of this. That's the problem, is that he's become so enclosed in his apartment that it's become the norm. Now for him.
He's a member of the 15%er. Like the 15%er is what I've been reading up on, where you're going to have 15% of the population that's essentially going to become completely introvert and never come out of their place again, at least for years now, because they've been so groomed to say it's bad, don't do this, stay home,
I'm not that pessimistic.
No, I'm not saying you, but there's there's a 15%er of the nation they're talking about that's going to happen to that, because they've been told stay inside, wear a mask.
I mean, I think that we're naturally resilient creatures. Mm-hmm. So I think right now it's hard to conceive, and myself too. Like there's days where I'm literally like I don't feel like I'm well, right? Like mentally, I just feel like I am just grinded, like I'm exhausted.
Well, that's a symptom. A lot of people are getting that. Like it's the cabin fever syndrome that everybody's having.
And I've told my wife, me and my wife talk about this, and like I have a 2.5-year-old, right? Mm-hmm. That's like the godsend of this situation, is that I have a 2.5-year-old. When I come up from, downstairs on Zoom call, she's standing at the top of the stairs and she says, "Daddy, how's your call?" And, I've got a hug waiting for me, and like that stuff kind of pulls you out, and that's great. The pessimism though, like I think that once, people have a short memory, humans have a short memory. Yeah. We're not very risk averse, as creatures. Mm-hmm. I mean, some of us are more risk averse than others, which is why some of us are staying in and some of us are like, fuck it, let's go to the bars. But it's, as soon as, I think on September 12th, 2001, you could have never perceived getting on a plane again, right? Like, and by, January the following year, it was like, okay, I guess, I got to fly. So I think the same sort of thing will happen. It's just going to take a little bit, but I think people will get back.
I mean, we're about to get on. I'm about to get on my first flight with him in 2 weeks. We're going to go to Nashville, and we're doing a taping down there, and that's the first flight I've been on in 7 months.
Oh yeah, I'm talking about going to. I might need to go to LA for something, and I'm driving. I'm not flying.
Yeah, LA is a little bit, but
like cross country travel, like if you ever,
I would cross country drive instead of fly right now.
It's tough. It's tough because places to stay. Where would you stay unless you're taking an RV with you?
But there's an element of like, part of this is, I mean, every time I leave my house,
it's limiting.
It's limiting. It's constricted. Yeah. And the other part is like, you don't know if somebody's just going to flip out on you.
Yeah.
For wearing a mask or something, like for as much as it's about personal safety, it's like, well, I'll wear a mask. You don't, that's fine. How are you going to
get mad at me?
Yeah. Mad at me for wearing, but I've been places like I'm in Target, I got to go pick up prescriptions or something, or, you for the little bit I've had to go out into stores and stuff and I'm wearing the mask. I felt like a confrontation just like right there with a few people, like just right on the edge, because you could tell. Like,
the ones not wearing the mask?
Well,
they've
the got it, but
the
like
chin mask and
the nose is hanging out. Yeah, like the sort of like half-assed attempt, or it's hanging off their ear. Yeah. Like they just put it on to get past the door guy.
Yeah.
At the Target.
You just want to beat those people sometime,
I mean, I try not to get mad. I try to understand that this is just tough times, and like you're getting mixed messages and there's all kinds of different motivations, and I've tried to like really, 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 like, it's really difficult, but I've tried to work backwards and be more like graceful with my opinions and not get all pissed off. Cause I feel that's sort of like the energy, right? The energy is to get everybody mad at each other. And,
it's not productive.
Is that why they're putting the stories out though? Like about Sturgis and about the wedding that just came out?
You can't convince people that already have something ingrained in their head about this. You're not going to be able to flip them back. Yeah. No matter what you do, you're not going to be able to convince them. If they don't want to wear a mask, you're not going to convince them to wear a mask.
Yeah.
And
I had this thought about like, like no shocker here. I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm not voting for Trump. So that's I know we probably gave away the lead there with that, but a lot of people in my neighborhood are, right? My next door app is just like crazy town.
Yeah.
And you want your initial reaction is like you want to jump in there and like somebody says something wrong or you feel is wrong, maybe it's and you want to jump in and argue with somebody, and then you realize like it's not gonna do anything. Like if after all of this, if you got mad at Obama for wearing a tan suit, but you're okay with this guy, and you could just pick from a menu of just crazy shit, then you're bought in. Yeah. There's nothing anybody's ever going to say that's going to change the way you look at any of this. And so, the best thing you can do now is try and convince your friends who are apathetic and don't want to vote to go vote.
That's it. Yeah.
That's it. It's like to be like, hey, by the way, like they don't actually care about anything because they see people like say AOC or progressives coming, right? They see that coming around the corner and they want to stop it. So if you don't vote at all, I know, Biden might not be progressive enough, but if he doesn't win, you're probably never going to see a progressive. Like this is about as progressive as shit's ever going to get because the reaction is to not Biden. The reaction from the conservative side is what could come after, like a more progressive candidate later. And the easiest way to shut that shit down is just to shut it down now. So, I mean, getting all into weird politics shit, but yeah, I think that's, to me, like it's just crazy to not recognize the country and to not and to feel more distant from my neighbors and the people in my community, my direct community, than I probably ever have in my lifetime, and actually feel like that's actually maybe a little bit dangerous, right? Like people want to fight over shit,
over politics, when
really we just want our kids. We all want our kids back in school. We want to be able to go have dinner. We all want the same shit.
Just a regular life again.
We all really just want the same shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
We don't. Yeah, the things that are dividing us, really nobody cares about. Like in a real meaningful way, I don't think.
What do you mean? I mean, divide. Like, well, everybody cares. Obviously, that's dividing us because that's
why
the mass protests.
But I think
are
there's all
happening.
kinds of nuance and there's all kinds like the stuff on that level. I don't think is as real to people's day-to-day lives as they think it. They're being told it is. I don't care if people want to go to church right now. Go to church.
Yeah,
that's fine. Like, you want to go get your haircut? Go get your fucking haircut. Like,
it's on you. That's
on
thing.
you. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Cat clothing for all the cat lovers in us.
Visit catclothing.net for their full line of cat-inspired clothes.
Hoodies, shirts, tanks, shorts, and even fitness gear are now fully in stock for the fall and winter season.
Again, visit catclothing.net today. Check it out. Thanks, everybody.
Meow, meow.
So going back to the wedding story that just came out, a couple days ago or whatever, where it's 143 people got sick and 3 people died just because they went to a wedding. You're just like, do you on that? I mean, it's
no, I'm not. But the information's there.
Yeah.
Right. Like you can't trust enough technology for the internet to happen and your car to work and the power to not light your house on fire. Like that's science, right? This is all scientific things that allowed all these things to be possible. And then when science also tells you about health, would you let a doctor operate on you without a mask?
No.
Yeah, exactly. A year and a half ago, would you? Would your dentist, if your dentist walked in and was just like coughing
no.
and asked you to like open up, would you do it? No. It's so the common sense shit is there.
Yeah.
So at that point, it's just like, fuck it. Like the information's there. If you choose to ignore it,
that's on you.
That's on you. And it's real. The unfortunate part, would be, well, then it's not on you because now you're going around and everybody else. So that's where you get into like the pseudo libertarianism, where it's like I'm a libertarian, but I'm going to go ahead and impact a bunch of people around me carelessly.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
and our society pretty much is run as the slowest person. So if we're kind of in those situations where you can't make a law, for instance, right? You can't make a law. To be honest, I'm going around in circles with what I'm talking about. Right
no, you're essentially a law that you have to do this. So there's rules in place that say, you go wear your mask or whatever, but then it just doesn't happen. So
but
you can't enforce that upon people to change their will, type of thing.
But that's where people start to flip out.
That's where you're saying you have to go do that, and then you see somebody getting shot by walking around. Where was it? It was a guy that had a machete. Chased after a cop because I think it was like 7-Eleven in Texas somewhere.
Who knows? There's a million of those stories.
Yeah.
All it is the South Park episode of they took their jobs,
Yeah, I mean, like you could like look, there's rules around how fast you can go, which way you can go on a street. Do you wear a seatbelt? Do you not wear a seatbelt? Like in Europe, they were doing fines on not wearing masks. You know, really heavy fines. And
yeah, but then they had this huge outbreak in Germany again, and then everybody started protesting. And Spain, and then they hit it in Australia again. Then they shut the borders down, which sounds like Australia might be shut down until the end of 2021.
Oh wow, really? I didn't see that.
Yeah, meaning you can't fly in or fly out. This is
the problem though. Like there's no way to know which way's up, right? So it's really difficult. So when you get back to the first point, when you open up Facebook and people are just frustrated, and there's no sign of how or why and when we get back. And I this is probably way more political than I thought it was going to be, but
us too. But bring it on.
That's fine. I mean, it's fine. But I think that's the hard part. Is like in the very, very beginning, there's like the small window, right, where a more caring administration who actually wanted to solve the problem,
correct,
would have done a few things, right? Which is you start at the top and you basically tell the banks, hey, stop collecting debt, which then tells the landlords, hey, the pressure's off of you, and then the landlords can tell their renters the pressure's off of you, and it kind of goes down that way, and then you do the UBI that Andrew Yang now looks like a genius for talking about for the last couple of years, right? And so you kind of do that and you say, hey, we're going to do this for 3 months. Had we done that, we probably could have really nipped this thing in the bud pretty quickly. Yeah, I think somewhere in there,
nobody was prepared for this though. Like this again.
This was a legit idea that was floated though in like March, April. Like this was a legit thing that's put. I think that somewhere the calculus was this actually plays better for the chaos plays better for re-election. Yeah, and so. And by the way, all these people are dying in Democratic states. It was the thought, right? Yeah. So, which is not
that's why Florida and Arizona, there's nothing Democratic about those states.
Well, that was after the fact, but at the time, it was like all the major metros where things are happening, like New York
and California.
So it's like, well, is this a feature or a bug? Yeah. And now it's like, you just can't put it back in the bottle. So, yeah.
So campaigns aside and all this stuff, what's the first thing you're doing when we get out of this back to some sort of normalcy? You and the family, what are you guys doing?
Going to a movie.
Yeah?
Yeah. Going to a movie or dinner. Literally just going.
That's a lovely train that we have going by here in Sacramento.
The geography of Sacramento, there's trains that cut right through the middle of downtown. And the Wonderful Union office is directly next to it.
Yeah. It's a glorious train. So hopefully it's not 100-car train.
They can be pretty long. It's a nice low rumble underneath.
Yeah.
I think dinner or a movie or just anything, like we really enjoy that as a family, and we haven't been able to.
They're starting to release real movies again now. Not saying that the other movies weren't real movies, but they're starting to actually release like blockbuster type movies now. Where
in the theater.
They're releasing them direct to video.
Oh yeah.
Like Mulan came out.
Yeah, we watched Mulan this morning.
Yeah.
Me and my kids. Yeah.
You have Disney Plus, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So like Bill and Ted came out 2 weeks ago, and then. There's a bunch of movies that came out this week. Yeah,
it's also like Universal saying that they're not going to release their stuff in theaters anymore with AMC, right? Universal and AMC are now on not a friendly term at all. But I mean, what do you think about that? That's actually a really interesting question, because do you think the movie theater? I actually asked somebody else this. What do you think the movie theater is going to be like in 5 years?
Do you think it'll exist?
Do you think it's still going to be around?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the short answer is I don't fucking know. But, I mean, if I'm here to pontificate, I guess we'll pontificate.
Let's pontificate.
I don't. That's the thing. I think that this isn't the first time something like this has happened, right? Some big disruption. There was the 1918 Spanish flu or whatever. It's like that right around the same year, I think.
Yep.
Life will get back.
Yeah.
Right. Like eventually we'll figure this out, and it'll just kind of go in the rears. And people love movie theaters. Like people love going out. People love being together, with other people. I mean, that's why this is so hard.
Yeah.
Is people miss each other and they want to like congregate. So as soon as people can and feel like they're not going to, put their life or their family's life at risk, they'll get back to it. I mean. But yes, I don't think the movie theaters are going to go away necessarily. I mean, it's probably more of a question of real estate costs and business structures. But the idea of going to the movies with your kids, the popcorn, the whole thing, like I can't imagine that not being a thing.
Well, look what's going on here in Sacramento. Like the drive-in that was dead. That every year they had a GoFundMe to help them raise money. Yeah. This year, you can't even get in unless you drive up 2.5 hours early for a movie.
Yeah, we've been talking about wanting to go see one of those. It's like it's impossible to get in there now.
Yeah, you got to wait. Literally, you wait in line for 2 hours before you get into the theater. It's crazy. And they do double features, which is nice.
Oh, yeah. My kids aren't hanging in for a double feature. That's
yeah, but it's nice.
Can you leave between movies?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, but you pay for 2 and you can just stay for 1 if you want. So
Yeah.
but
That
it's
sounds
so
amazing.
hot. Yeah, I mean, but who knows? Yeah, the drive-ins are great. So we used to go a lot because there was nobody there. But now you can't get in.
We went before we had kids. The one out there on was that Greenback or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, we went. Me and my wife went before we had children. And then my kid, we've always had like a young kid, so it's not really conducive to. Right now, I think we could probably pull it off. But yeah, you can't even get tickets now. But.
Yeah. What do you think of live sporting events right now? Like, what's your thoughts on obviously the whole college? Because you watch sports, you watch MMA and stuff like that, right?
I'm not much of an MMA guy. I grew up a baseball fan.
That's what it was, baseball.
But I'm a huge basketball fan now.
Okay.
And I think the NBA has gotten it right.
The bubble was absolutely right. So.
Everything about how they got it right, how they did it. I mean, look, the NBA on many levels, the way that they have responded to social justice, they've always kind of like gotten that really, really right. Adam Silver, I think, has done a great job with the league since he took over. You look at some of the other leagues and you kind of shake your head. I mean, the NFL, I think, is probably the worst, in terms of how they.
But is it? Have you heard about any teams that have had a huge breakout on it?
No, so we'll split this in 2.
Okay.
One is the COVID response.
Got you.
Which is like everybody's kind of forced to kind of nobody's going to show up anyway, so it doesn't matter if they had, if they did it anyways. And the other is like the social justice type stuff. And I think you can't look at how they handled Kaepernick and not say that they just they get a fucking F.
Yeah.
They get a big fat fucking F for how they've handled anything to do with, particularly when you look at the demographics of the players, it's a joke. Like, it's just a joke of how the NFL treats it.
I agree.
Versus
100%.
NBA has always been very much
Very
cognizant,
progressive,
aware, and very progressive about how they treat the players. And the players, I don't know if they always have, but they certainly have more power.
Mm-hmm.
When LeBron says what LeBron says, like, it's, the world moves a little bit.
The king has spoken.
Yeah, the world shifts a little when he has something to say. And so, the way they handled the protest last week where all the teams didn't want to play, the way they came out of that and sort of the outcome, like,
I'm glad Milwaukee led the charge on that too, since it kind of happened in Milwaukee. So that was definitely a big charge. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm obviously not of a minority group, but I think that it's got to be fucking exhausting for those guys. And particularly like they get a platform and be told that don't use your platform, and if not for being really, really good at a particular sport, they could be in one of those neighborhoods or they could be on the other end of one of those situations. So I can see like, they're in a position to say and do something about it. And it's fucking rad to see them do it.
Yeah, for sure.
And so in terms of sports, like I know that you have sports and we end up in this direction, but the NBA, the bubble, like everything they did there, like it's just amazing and A+ to them for that. Like the MLB, I listened to like a podcast where they talked about like the player they had like a big player dispute or something. We're trying to figure out.
Agent Live 360, the world's first and only publicly offered CRM software designed specifically for sports agents.
AL360 is an incredible state-of-the-art software that does everything from keeping track of clients, professional, and college teams, to even company finances and client return on investment.
This system does it all. Visit agentlive360.com for full details.
Go check it out.
Well, I mean, the teams were having huge breakouts. So the dispute aspect of it, you're talking about the
it was before they even did it.
Oh,
they talked about
you're
doing a
talking
bubble.
It was a collective bargaining type thing, or with the MLBPA, where they had to decide how many games they were going to play and then how much of the percentage of their actual contracts they were going to pay out on.
Yeah.
So it took them almost 2 months to figure that out, and then they figure it out, and then they had to cancel. I think they're up to 15% of the season anyways because they're all getting sick. But again, the NFL, I don't know if this is just because it's minicamp, hasn't had a huge outbreak. You haven't heard about multiple players getting sick.
You haven't heard about it.
They're doing a ton of testing.
But they're testing you before and after practice type stuff. Like they're testing you all the time. And they were even going to stop up, I think it was last week or whatever. They were stopping on a certain date. And they said, no, we're going to continue now through possibly the season, I think it is. So,
well, it's hard though, because the NBA, I mean, the way the NBA, and I think MLS approached it the same way too. They did a bubble too, right?
MLS?
Yeah.
The soccer, you talking about soccer?
Yeah. Did they do a bubble in Orlando too?
Maybe.
I don't know enough. But the NBA doing the bubble gave them a lot of coverage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they were able to just create this environment. And like, I don't know if you saw like Rashawn Holmes, I think it was, ordered like Chipotle or something, and then got like he got Chipotle delivered early and got like basically isolated. Like, oh, you broke the bubble. You broke the seal. You're out. And so.
Well, and in the NBA too, the guy went to the strip club to get the wings he liked at the strip club. We all love the wings at the strip club. Don't we?
Oh, jeez. Yeah, but I think that it's more the team sizes, that the staff sizes in NBA make it easier, like by proxy, right? What's an NFL roster, like 50 man?
56.
Yeah, so 56 people. What's an MLB roster?
I think 15, maybe 20.
Oh, no,
they've got more than that.
Is it?
Yeah.
They have like
MLB.
3
Sorry,
players for
MLB.
each.
Baseball.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I keep thinking MLB, MLS.
No, they''ve got like 10 pitchers.
I think it's 20.
Yeah.
20.
Yeah,
No,
20.
yeah.
Because
pitchers.
there's 40. There's a 40-man roster, which means you're in MLB, but you're not necessarily playing on the team.
Yeah, so the logistics of that, and then trainers and all that sort of stuff.
yeah.
It's just difficult. So maybe the NBA had a little bit more advantage just because the teams are a little bit smaller.
Yeah, in the bubble aspect.
in the
fact
bubble
they could
aspect,
house
yes.
them all. In.
There's a good. I don't know if you ever listen to the Daily. It's like a podcast by the New York Times, but they did a really good breakdown of like the decision. Like they were talking to the commissioner of baseball while he was trying to figure this out from April until when they actually figured it out, and they experimented with a bubble concept as well. And I think once you start adding travel, hotel rooms, like you can't control it. It's, I'm actually shocked that they continued the season. I thought after what happened was it Philly?
The Marlins.
Marlins.
With Florida, yeah.
Yeah, after that, I thought they're going to have to shut this thing down.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's been good for the last couple of weeks. You really haven't heard much about it. So,
no.
I know they experimented with the bubble with the NFL too. They were going to try and do, half like a division would get different stadiums. Like they do one in Texas, they do one in like LA, and just house them that way. So, but they're going to just play them regular. And then I just read too that they're letting fans in the stadiums this year.
Are they spacing them out?
Yeah, it's going to be, I think,
it.
like 15% capacity or something like that. Something like 5,000 people per game or something like that.
I know that, like, for people who aren't sports fans, it feels like just like who fucking cares. But I've enjoyed the hell out of basketball. I mean, the way they presented the games has been really well. Like the visual of it doesn't feel super bad. Like watching at the video screen with
The
the
video
fans on the
board's
back
cool
is
with the
pretty
fans. I thought that was cool.
Baseball's a little funky. Like with the fans, like I've kind of gotten used to it. But at first, watching them play to an empty parks was like weird.
But there's a lot of teams that's just normal for them anyway. So.
I'm a Giants fan. I'm not used to that.
Yeah.
A's fans, it's pretty normal. So.
Yeah, A's fans, it's very normal, man. They got Mount Davis in the back there.
Yeah,
That's always.
you buy a nosebleed seat, you can sit down and touch the field. So that's how close you sit. So
I thought for enough money they let you play.
oh, probably. So you can buy a luxury box for $1,200. That's all I know. So
No, yeah, I've been super impressed with the NBA. I've enjoyed it too. It just isn't like. It's made it feel a little less Groundhog Day to watch some of these. And the NBA, I mean, some of the games have been phenomenal. So, good on them for doing that.
Did you get into these stupid sports before sports started up, like the marbles and all that stuff?
I was watching.
That YouTube guy?
Where they would race the marbles?
Yeah.
I kept turning on ESPN and it was, what's the sandbag thing?
Cornhole.
Cornhole, yeah. Me and my daughters are watching cornhole. Going like,
I am an ACL card carrying member.
I'm a big.
my God.
I've always been a longtime fan of curling.
It's
the Olympics.
fantastic. That's great. That's my favorite winter sport. Absolutely.
Well, I hold on to it as my final hope for Olympic glory because I've aged out of being able to play any other sport in the Olympics. So I figure curling's the one thing I could still, make my Olympic dreams come true. But so I did it once.
50-year-old gold medal winner.
Yeah,
It's
actually a great game.
I know it's older. Some
Yeah.
of those guys are in their early 60s.
Oh yeah, man.
Well, they have a league in Roseville, and I went, once or twice with some friends of mine. So I learned how to do it, and they've gone on to it's been like 5 years, 6 years. They've been doing it, and they're great. It's fun, but it's like a great the losing team, the winning team buys the losing team beers or something like I can't remember. Like the whole thing in the sport where, but yeah, it's a great sport. So I've been used to watching sort of like a borderline. Is this really a sport for a while? So the cornhole was kind of in that vein, but it was like on like every day. It's like.
See, the thing about cornhole,
They dragged these guys to Vegas or something and made them all play cornhole.
Well, they play
The thing
in the
about
Nationals.
cornhole.
No. The thing about the thing about cornhole is a normal person can play that game. A normal beer swilling jackalope, sitting at the bar can go out there and win $250,000 throwing a bag in a hole.
See, I thought from looking at it on ESPN,
America.
my impression was only guys who listen to Sublime play that game because every guy on TV
That's some serious
looked
stuff.
like they walked straight out of a Sublime with Rome concert into watch this game. But
If we get back to normalcy, I'll take you to the 4th of July cornhole.
I love cornhole. I have a set. Me and my daughters play it.
Absolutely.
It's not riveting television. We'll just say that.
What about the axe throwing stuff? They had that whole thing where they actually had the Ocho going on ESPN for a while, and they did the axe throwing world championships, and then it backed up by cornhole, and then they did the marble races. I was like,
I didn't see the marble. I would have loved the marble races.
The marble races are
the
great.
Confederate flag flying underneath it too.
But I watched some replays of games and stuff. Like they were playing like old games and from like World Series gone by, stuff like this. I'm not a massive sports nut, but I was still watching. I mean, you just needed something that wasn't
something that's not the news.
You need something that's not the news.
Yeah, something to bring you up a little bit. That's kind of the thing. It's like everybody needs a little bit of an uplift right now, and that's essential. I think
the Hamilton was well timed. Like when they released Hamilton on Disney Plus, we watched the hell out of that.
Yeah,
my daughters just love it. So, and actually, I was in the spot where I was like, this thing can't live up to. I've been hearing about this musical for like 5 years. Like, there's no way it's as good as anybody says it is. And we watched it. It was like, that is like the best piece of modern music, art, whatever you want to call it. It is phenomenal and brilliant.
It was funny watching Michael Rappaport watch it for the very first time.
Oh yeah,
because he's like, this is gonna be shit. It's gonna be terrible. And he's Instagramming out. He's like, I'm sorry guys, this is the best thing I've ever watched.
We listened to it nonstop. Not to borrow from the lyrics, but yeah, my daughters love it. It's actually the fascinating thing is, there's people who take issue with a lot of like how some of the characters are represented or what, but you start digging into it. Like, you have a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old asking about American history, and, and digging through it. So we're like, Googling stuff and reading stuff and talking about it, and this is profound impact that something like some piece of really accessible history had, where they're digging into all this sort of stuff, and for the most part, it's pretty historically accurate. He did a pretty good job. I guess he didn't, call out, Hamilton for owning slaves or the family owning slaves or something, and that's where people take issue. But for the rest of it, pretty historically accurate. So
that's cool. Well, buddy, it was great to have you on the show.
We talked about zero music stuff.
We don't have to talk about music. We can talk about whatever you want on this. Yeah.
This is great.
It was great to have you on. Really loved all the input and everything you're doing. But in closing remarks, is there anything that you'd like to say? Anything you want to share, plug, whatever it may be?
Any wisdom for the world?
Yeah.
Just don't watch the news. Yeah, turn off the news sometimes.
What about NPR? Yeah. NPR's so good.
I listen to the Daily. I'll do NPR. Kevin Lyman tweeted out something the other day. It was like a little more straight news. That was nice too. Yeah, it's just trying to take a breath.
I hear you.
Take a breath and like you said, like I did a lot of that, like you were saying earlier, calling people you haven't talked to in a long time, checking on people, and that was like probably my favorite part of the early pandemic. Is how many like just conversations I had with friends I haven't talked to in a really long time, and I think all the Zoom party calls and stuff has kind of dropped off, but maybe we should pick that back up. Yeah, just take a breath. It's gonna be all right. We'll get there, and try not to be so mad at other people.
Yeah. We appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me. It's great.
Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you guys later.
Appreciate it.
All right.